Hello, welcome to Disputed Boxing. We're back to review Chris Eubank Jr. beats Liam Williams on points, as we predicted. If you're new to the channel, please hit the like and subscribe button. We're trying desperately to get to 100 subscribers, so please help us out. I'm here with Rick. How are we doing?
All good. Bit of a late one, this.
I know.
Late one in the day.
Yeah, it is. But yeah, we're just going to do a quick review of Chris Eubank Jr. versus Liam Williams, and then we've got a prediction video coming up as well on Khan Brook. We're going a little bit early on that because I'm going to be away for 10 days. So we wanted to get that prediction video, and I think it's going to be a lot to unpack from that. But yeah, on with this one. So yeah, tell us, Rick, what were your thoughts on the fight?
Thought it was a strange one.
Yeah.
And I thought our prediction looked a bit off after a few minutes.
Yeah.
A couple of things that were strange for me. Just Williams' inability to take Eubank's power, and he's not known for power, especially with jabs.
Yeah.
And then his ability to seem to be able to take the shot later in the fight. And then mixed with just Eubank's stupidity, really, from round 7 or 8 onwards. So I don't know. I enjoyed the start of the fight with the knockdowns, and then when Williams was coming back into it, but then I didn't appreciate Eubank's pissing around, basically. Yeah. Especially the last round. It was odd, and I don't buy what he said at the end. And I think a few commentators have said this, that they don't believe. He almost said, I could have got him out there at any time, but I chose not to. Just to teach him a lesson. I think yeah, he didn't I don't think he could get him out.
No. I think it's an opportunity to make a real statement against not really a world level, but has operated at world level. He's got to be one of the most frustrating boxers that we've had on these shores for some time now, Chris Eubank Jr., because there's definitely something there, but and he keeps himself in shape. He's pretty disciplined, but when it comes to, I don't know, it's very, very frustrating. He's got a lot of confidence, but for somebody that 3 knockdowns in the first 4 rounds, total inability to close the show, and you've got to run them over. You've got to finish, you've got to close the show. And he did the same thing against Marcus Morrison. He had Marcus Morrison hurt in the early part of that fight, and he just dragged it out for a points win. And again, that was a missed opportunity to really kind of make a statement. And he just doesn't seem to be doing it. And, the antics in the middle towards the end of the fight, I didn't appreciate either. I think, there's flashes of it. There's flashes of potentially something there, but he just doesn't seem to. I think his boxing ability as well isn't like it's almost like it's still, growing. There's still a kind of a bit of evolution needed. And he's 32. He's coming towards the end of his career. I'm just not convinced. I'm just not convinced by him now. I just think he's chopped and changed far too many times over the years. Doesn't really. I'm not convinced by his power. Either. And I think part of that is, I just wonder as well, because he's campaigned at 168, and I just wonder how heavy that 60 weight cut is for him, because I thought he faded a little bit towards the end. That rounds 9 and 10, he started to look a little bit tired, and Liam Williams was putting it on him, and I think he took maybe 3 or 4 rounds of towards the end of the fight, and it was actually quite close in the end.
Well, it wasn't close on the scorecards. When you heard the scorecards being read out, I don't think they were pretty wide, but I didn't get the sense that he was tiring, if I'm honest. I just saw his bad attitude, really, and didn't want to take a risk and get caught, because all his knockdowns weren't over exchangey. They were just catching him coming in, not him going for it. So I think it was a bit fortunate to get some of those knockdowns. But you're right. The fight was closer for me than it was on the scorecards. I think some of those scorecards were really, really wide, almost like not giving Williams anything. before that fourth knockdown, it's daft I'm even saying this, but before that fourth knockdown, for me, he was only like a couple of rounds away, Williams. And you know, it was. I remember I was watching it with a friend saying that I can see this getting very, very close if this carries on before the fourth knockdown, and Eubank will wonder how is it even that close? But every round, Williams was just doing more, you know, from the kind of fourth onwards. And it reminded me a little bit of, you know, those fights where they kick off at the end and go, oh, you know, I won that, but they just had they just couldn't seem to understand that they were losing all these rounds.
Yeah.
You know, and you've seen that in quite a few fights.
Yeah.
Where you know the side kicks off because they thought that this was a clear win and it was very, very close, or they lost because they just thought they were doing enough. But there's some rounds where Eubank just didn't really land much, danced around, played around, and got caught a few times by nothing significant. But that's a round lost.
Yeah. Yeah. Agreed.
So yeah, the scoring was a bit strange because I didn't see it as yeah, it's almost like Williams didn't win a round, and I think he won a few.
I think Matthew Macklin had it 140, 104, 101 to Eubank. So it's actually pretty close. If you take those 4 knockdowns, yeah, it's pretty close on his card. But where do you see Eubank going from here? Because obviously they're going to try and position him for a world title now.
I mean, you know, it's frustrating. It's tricky this because it's frustrating with his performance, considering his start. But and don't get me wrong, I'm not saying I thought Williams won or I thought it was mega close. I just thought it was getting closer.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know if you score that last round because Eubank was just doing daft tricks anyway. So
yeah.
So I'm not saying it was like mega close, but he still beat relatively comfortably a very good middleweight. Someone who's fought well. I mean, you've got to say Eubank did do a better job than who did Williams fight recently for the title?
Andrade. Yeah.
It felt a more convincing win, even though he made it. You know, there were some rounds where he was just making it difficult for himself. So it was more convincing than that. It's just more frustrating that why didn't he go and close it, or why didn't he make it even more convincing? So with that in mind, you know, he's proving he's at the level to fight an Andrade or someone like that, and he's worthy of a main title shot. It's just will he get there? How many title shots has he had? Groves was a title shot, wasn't it?
Yeah.
And was the Billy Joe Saunders was it?
No, I think that would have been for the British. And I think I recall that he had the WBA regular title at that time. I think it's just George Groves. I think that's the only time he's fought for a world title.
Yeah, and
if you're not counting the IBO.
Yeah, I'm not counting the IBO, no. So yeah, I do think he deserves another title, especially at middleweight.
Yeah.
And maybe if Andrade steps up, there's a I don't know, where does this get him in the rankings? Do we know? He must have taken this fight for rankings in one of the organizations.
Yeah, I'm not 100% sure on that. I don't even know which governing body that he's kind of pursuing. I'd imagine he's got a good ranking in all 4 of them, to be honest. Because he's had two half decent wins now against Marcus Morrison and Liam Williams. Obviously, we're forgetting that other guy that he fought in October. But yeah, but they've got. I think either way, they've got to move him along now, for sure. So yeah,
Yeah, I
we'll
mean,
see.
a
Watch this
title
space.
shot a title shot this year, whether it's the next fight or the fight after. But I've just got a weird feeling that, I think we've said this before, that they'll really be careful before they go for another world title.
Yeah.
They'll if Andre relinquishes his title, and it's because sometimes this can happen. The association can put two fighters together, and you can have a bit of a touch, can't you, where you put together with some clown and you basically guaranteed the belt.
Yeah.
Depending, we know what some of the rankings are like, so that's maybe what they're holding out for. I just don't think I'm not sure they'll take on a Charlo.
No, because that'll have to be on a PBC show.
Has been a PBC show. He'll be the B side, and there's not a group. That's a real tough fight. I think they'll do everything to. I think they'll hold out. I think they'll just circle, go into next year until they feel that it's a title. Because I think their thinking is the Eubank name with an actual world title is worth a hell of a lot of money. And don't get me wrong, you win a world title, your value obviously goes up. I just think that with the Eubank name is more than a normal person with a title.
Yeah.
And I wonder if they're just holding out on that so that they could go, they could do a unification, and that's worth even more because of the Eubank name.
Yeah.
I just think they'll circle and wait for a more simple opportunity.
Yeah. No, I agree. All right, watch the space. Anything else? Did you see anything else on the card? I guess there's not really anything else on the card that's really worth talking about. Clarissa Shields got a good win, had a bit of verbal back and forth with Savannah Marshall. So that fight is obviously hotting up now for this year.
What wind your net back in, love? Or whatever she would say. I mean, that'll be a good fight to see.
Yeah.
Interesting tweets from Ben about a potential catchweight fight with Eubank. I don't think that will happen at all, really. I think it's just more for get Twitter going.
Yeah, I think they're at different stages of their career, different weights. I
mean, the weight's the biggest thing, isn't it? Let's be honest. It's like Ben's a pretty small 147, and Eubank's a very big 160.
Yeah, I just can't really see that happening. I actually hear they're quite good friends as well. They're quite pally with each other, so just doesn't really that one doesn't really catch the eye for me. Like, it's just more nostalgia. All right, let's wrap it up. And we're going to do a quick prediction on Khan versus Brook. Thanks for listening.
Just before you do, you're still rolling?
Yeah, still rolling. Go on.
Just obviously the Fury Whyte situation, and just an update on that. So it looks like they have now paid the 10% to the WBC. So that's the actual amount that the winner gets. And contracts have been exchanged now. Well, I say exchanged, given to Whyte. So I think we'll hopefully get more of an announcement next week on that fight, and maybe even some press conferences. But it's interesting, the back and forth. I mean, I've seen some Hearn Warren interviews, and it's that goes quiet between those two, and then it heats back up again. And this is a real one where they're going at it about why it fell apart. And I think each of them are telling like a certain element of the truth with other bits missing, and it's those other bits missing that are making it tricky to follow. And you almost like getting extra pieces of the jigsaw when it goes back and forth to the other person.
Yeah.
They've both got something a little bit they're not telling us. So yeah, interesting how it develops. I think Hearn said tomorrow he's meeting with Whyte, and part of the discussions, because he said it's not for me to look through the contracts. I'm not a legal person, but I'll have a view. But it's also potentially to discuss how much Whyte wants him around,
right?
Which we all want, not because of the fight, just because of the press conferences.
I just don't think he'll go, to be honest. I think it'd be good if Hearn does go to the press conference, but I just don't think he'll go, because he's going to, you know, just in being there, and if it all blows up at the press conference, it's going to be selling the fight, which I guess he'll want to do because obviously Whyte's his fighter, but, you know, his time will be better spent, you know, promoting a DAZN show. But yeah, we'll see.
Yeah, so I suppose it depends on the time commitments, and obviously there's a potential cut for Hearn, you know, out of Whyte's purse. I suppose you could do all kinds of deals, you know. So yeah, it'd be interesting to see how it goes. And it might be that Hearn just says, right, you know, I'll do one press conference if you're doing one in America, one in the UK, because they'll have to do that. You'd think if it's going on pay-per-view over there, he might just do the UK one. Interestingly, he was asked how many buys it does on BT, how many pay-per-view buys. What do you think his answer was?
Well, I think most people are kind of agree that it's about 1 mil. It'll touch 1 mil or go over 1 mil. So I don't know. He's probably said maybe less than that, just as a bit of a sly dig, or to try and get a rise out of Frank Warren.
700 to 800.
Yeah,
and that's what makes me laugh, because he goes, that's a massive fight. That's a massive fight for BT. He just is like a little dig, isn't it?
Yeah, subliminal dig. Yeah, he loves it. All right.
Okay.
Cool. Good to I've got an update on that. Okay, great. So let's wrap it up, and we'll do the prediction on Khan Brook.